Hello and welcome to Close Walk Catholic Communications. I'm Father Bayer, your host. We're glad that you can join us. Today's a very special day. Special because I'm very honored to have the guest in the studio with me today that we have. But before I introduce him, I think I need to give a little background and perhaps even a little commentary. Those of us of a certain age don't really remember the turn of the century in the United States, where people had come here and they were primarily Anglo-Saxon and Protestants. At the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, there was a great immigration to our country. And primarily they were French and Spanish and Italian. And because of that, there was a rise in some anti-Catholic sentiments, being concerned about the proliferation of Catholics in our country. Those who are familiar with the Ku Klux Klan know that there was a great prejudice against people who were Black, people who were Catholic, and people who were Jewish. In 1928, we had a presidential election in which Al Smith was the front runner and largely thought to be our first and our new Roman Catholic president. And everyone woke up the next morning to realize that Herbert Hoover had won the election and Al Smith had not. And then we move forward to the 1960 presidential election when John F. Kennedy, a professed Catholic, was running for president. And there was very public concern that the Pope was moving into the White House and we were going to try to turn the United States into a Catholic theocracy. And there was a famous speech by John F. Kennedy at the Baptist Convention in Houston, Texas, prior, where he tried to deal with that concern. And in a certain sense, in a kind of a jaded way, he said that his Catholic doctrine would not accompany the decisions he made as president. Since then, many Catholic politicians have checked their Catholic faith at the door and not used them as part of their leadership in the church. Today, we have the second so-called Catholic president who takes great delight in going around and pulling his rosary out of his pocket to prove that he's Catholic. I hate to tell you, Uncle Joe, but pulling your rosary out of your pocket to prove you're Catholic no more makes you a Catholic than pulling your car keys out of your pocket makes you an automobile. There's a lot more to being Catholic than simply carrying a rosary in your pocket. But with that being said, there was an extraordinary time in our country where from 1952 to 1957, a Catholic Archbishop, Fulton J. Sheen, was prime time on American television with a great show called Life is Worth Living, in which he had 40 million followers of all different faiths and denominations, which was a huge achievement in our history, especially even as recent as 1960, there was some anti-Catholic concerns. Nowadays, we've just realized that the FBI has infiltrated traditional Roman Catholic churches, and it's under the so-called terror watch concern. So being anti-Catholic has been part of our history as Americans. But the one who broke the barrier was Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen. And for those of you who watched, he always said, because he had his blackboard that he did his writing, and he always said the angels erase my blackboard. Well, I got to tell you, he doesn't look like an angel, but the man who was the angel of the blackboard is here with us. He's the author of this recent book entitled Six Popes, and he is the one who was the secretary for Archbishop Fulton J. Msgr. Hilary Franco, welcome to Closer Walk, my brother.
It's a pleasure.
So glad to have you. Now, I'm going to shut up, which I know will make the audience very happy. And Msgr. Fulton J. Sheen is an icon in American Catholicism, and you were up close and personal. Please tell us, first of all, how that happened.
Well, I hope David can give us about a couple of hours, because if I start, I don't know how long I'm going to go, and this was kind of, well, I would say my life more than anything else. And Bishop Fulton J. Sheen really was my mentor and friend. I wrote another book saying Bishop Sheen, mentor and friend. And it's actually based on over 100 handwritten letters that he wrote to me until he died, actually.
1979.
It's incredible. Beautiful. There are so many beautiful stories that I would like to share with you, but I am happy to be on this show with you. I have to tell you that I was impressed by what I have seen in your videos before, and now your friendship. Very, I would say, very deep and profound friendship in the Lord. I feel that what you are doing, trying to let the people know that we are continuously loved by God. That was the mission of Fulton J. Sheen. Let's not forget that Fulton J. Sheen starts with a radio program. So when he was teaching at Catholic University in Washington, he was invited by the Knights of Columbus. They sponsored him, and it was this hour called the Catholic Hour. That was almost so popular at that time, almost as popular as his television program later on. Let me put it that way. But television was new. And so in the early 50s, they were looking for someone to give that message of hope that the people, especially in the United States, needed after the war. That was really an incredible thing. And they figured, well, let's try with this Msgr at that time, Msgr Fulton J. Sheen, who has the Catholic Hour. So I always felt that I would like to say thank you to the Knights of Columbus, for sponsoring, this program that made Bishop Msgr at that time, Fulton J. Sheen, a kind of a very popular radio icon. Let me put it that way. Then in 1951, actually between 50 and 51, he becomes National Director of the Propagation of the Faith. And in 51, in June 51, he is named Auxiliary Bishop of New York. At that time, Cardinal Francis Spellman was the Cardinal Archbishop of New York. The television people, especially the DuPont at that time, they were looking for someone like
the sponsors, yes.
All right. And so they really invited him, and they figured, well, one season, would be okay for this man to see what happens. Well, the program became so popular, so much so that it was called Life is Worth Living. And remember, Life is Worth Living is one of the actually 72 bestsellers that he wrote.
Wow.
Just think about it. And immediately after became also the Bishop Sheen show later on. So was not only the few years, the few seasons, because they became several seasons, but for 11 years we enjoyed the presence of Bishop Fulton J. Sheen. He was not Archbishop yet,
Right.
until he was named Bishop of Rochester in '66. And so this is really something that we have to understand how this kind of popularity developed. Remember, this young man must have been probably, definitely, no, was the providence of God that gave us this great icon for the Catholics. You mentioned something so important at the beginning of this program. We forgot that we Catholics were completely, like, almost, how can I say, really left out of the American dream at one point. Well, they were just, like,
Ethnic, that Catholic.
yeah, that's so.
They're
Let's
not purebreds.
No, that's what I mean. Let's do away with them. Actually, at one point, there was a way, and he actually, Fulton J. Sheen, put Catholicism on the map of the United States.
Made it acceptable.
Made it acceptable.
As an Irishman.
And so that in 1960, we will have the new president who will be Catholic. So that's a way of preparing, something that eventually became a reality now. Until he died in 1979, he continuously gave retreats and all kinds of conferences. Some from my handwritten letters that I cherish, and actually, it's a great treasure for me.
Sure.
Sometimes he tells me, well, I went to give a retreat to 1,200 actors and actresses and to 500 Protestant ministers. You mentioned something so important. Our program, I say our program, the Bishop Sheen program, was 40% Catholic, our audience, 30% Protestant, and 30% Jewish.
Wow.
Most of the Jewish jokes that I know is because he used to invite, Georgie Jessel and especially Harry Harshfield and the Jack Benny. They would be invited as our guests to have dinner with us, 109 East 38th Street, like all the other, so many actors and actresses, would be when I'm. It was really a great experience for me as a young man. At that time, Father Jeff, I was kind of handsome, young, whatever. Speaking of which, I have to tell you a beautiful story.
All right, we're gonna do that when we come back.
Definitely,
only got a half an hour, but the idea that a Catholic Irish bishop transcended and broke down all the barriers.
Yes,
is incredible, and we're gonna get to the story in a minute. But the other thing that I really want us to talk about is that why his message had such a huge appeal to so many. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, I'm Father Jeff Baye from Closer Walk Catholic Communications. Thank you for being here today, and a special thanks for the support that you give us. First of all, your prayerful support we so desperately need, and also your financial support. We are donor-driven, and that is what keeps us on the air today. As you well know, the truth is in great demand and in very short supply, and mainstream media is not going to bring you the truth of the Gospels of our Lord Jesus Christ because that's not socially acceptable and it's not politically correct. Certainly, we all realize that when this life journey's over, we don't stand before the Supreme Court, we stand before the throne of God. Therefore, with great clarity and great charity, to pronounce the truth of the gospel is important. Your prayers, your financial support enables us to do that. So we thank you, and may God bring you closer in your walk with the Lord each day. God bless you. Hello and welcome back to Close Walk Catholic Communications. I'm Father By, your host, and we're so very honored to have with us the angel of the Blackboard, Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen's secretary, assistant, friend for many, many years. His latest book called Six Popes. It's available on Amazon. And if you get it, you'll realize that he's been the Forrest Gump of the Catholic Church for the last 60 years. Anything that has happened significant in the church, somehow this very handsome young 39-year-old guy has been right in the mix. So, Monsignor, welcome back. And
Thank you for having me here.
we were talking before the break.
Yes.
About.
Well, I wanted to tell you, about the audience. We were saying, 30% were Jewish, and this brings me to a few years ago. As you do know, I was advisor for 10 years at the Permanent Observer Mission to the United Nations, the pontifical. And so every year we honored some head of state, our gala and so on and so forth. And one year we decided to uh, kind of honor the Knights of Columbus. So Mr. Anderson came to get the prestigious award that we give. And since I'm a board member of the foundation, Path to Peace Foundation, that it's really sponsoring the Permanent Observer Mission of the Holy See, I was giving the award to Mr. Anderson, and I just said a few words. I said, well, I take this opportunity to thank you for starting the radio program and supporting the radio program of Msgr Fulton J. That's all I said. During the meeting, during the dinner, this wonderful, man, gentleman, he came to me and he said, Monsignor, you brought tears to my eyes. Oh, I said to myself, usually, sometimes I do, but I had given only a few words, Yes, he said, but you mentioned one of my icons, Fulton J. Sheen. So I said, what's your name? And he gave me the name. I won't mention it, but it was a Jewish name. I recognized it was a Jewish name. I said, well, yes, you had an office at 366 Fifth Avenue, the 11th and the 12th floor. Yes, that was the National Office of Propagation of the Faith. Yes, well, think, I was 14 years old. My father had an office in that same building. And all of a sudden, I find myself in the elevator with this icon that I had watched. And then he's not only he's talking to me, and then he stopped and he said, by the way, Monsignor, you had a lot of hair on your head at that time. I said, whatever. But I said, he said, we arrive and at the first floor, and he continues to talk to me, a Jewish boy. He was still impressed. He was in tears. Can you imagine? He had really made an impression. As I was saying before, most of the Jewish jokes, because Jacques Benny. Oh, by the way, could I just mention one little thing about Jacques Benny? At the end of our dinners, we had Maureen O'Hara used to come. The royal family of Belgium were always there. That's another beautiful story. When they were late, 15 minutes late, because they, the holy, I would say, king at that time, he did not want for private affairs to have a security with him. So, 6 p.m. In New York, the traffic and so on and so forth. But that was the royal family. But let's go back to Jack Benny. At the end of the dinner, we were talking, and I said, naivete, a kid like myself, I said, Jack, something is wrong with you tonight. You're not the same. And he said, Father, you are so right. That's how he spoke. He said, yes, you're so right. Tonight I have to go on television and tell them my age. It came natural to me. I said to him, Jack, don't tell him that you're 40. You were just 39.
Uh-huh.
And ever since, until he died,
He was 39 years
he
old.
was 39 years old, but he never gave me credit, so I told him several times.
Oh,
afterwards.
Roscoe. Okay, yeah.
But
Now-
just to give you, go ahead.
No, there. You talked about this young Jewish boy, and I remember as a child watching Fulton J. Sheen, and he had a flair about
Oh.
him. But there was another side of him
Yes.
that was very, very connected to the disadvantaged. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, I do have I have so many things that I would like to share. This is a beautiful show. I love it. Even though I've been so many TV shows, but up until recently, very recently, I would like to tell you, how important it was for him to take care of the poor, so much so that he created, and no one is thinking about this, the Bishop Sheen Fund for the poor of the world.
Really?
It's not published, but he did so much, and yet this great icon, in one of the letters, handwritten letters that he wrote to me,
Mhm.
when he needed hospital treatments, he had difficulty in paying the hospital bills, my dear.
Really?
Yes. We're talking about Bishop Fulton J, because everything that he would get,
He gave away.
oh, he gave it away. He was so generous that sometimes we used to play tennis at the East End Club, because once in a while we had the tennis hour, and I'll never forget, the ushers there. They would come and tell me, Father, I have to tell you, all these wealthy people that come to this club, they never give us any tips whatsoever.
Puzza.
the and Bishop would be so generous, But speaking of generosity, can I?
Yeah, sure.
Well, we lived at 109 East 38th Street, 38th and Park, but it will take you, Father Jeff, and myself, perhaps 10 minutes to walk because he wanted to walk all the time to 366 Fifth Avenue, where we had our office. Okay, and with the bishop would take
An hour.
35 minutes, 40 minutes, because they
Everybody.
would stop. And, one day I'll never forget this wonderful, handsome, elderly man. He stopped. He said, "Oh, Bishop, I am so taken by you. I'm so, I don't know how to express, I really love you. Oh, I said, the bishop, "Well, thank you so much." He was always so humble. He would stop and whatever. And, and then the old man said, "But I love more my archbishop." And the bishop said to me, "Oh, wonderful. Who's your archbishop?" "Cardinal Cushing in Boston." "Ah, oh," he said, "he's my friend. Oh, to say hello when you see him or whatever." "Bishop, that's my problem, because I would like to go and see him, but I don't have the money to buy the train ticket." So here's the generous Fulton J. Sheen. I'll never forget. He puts his hand in his pocket with a rather large bill at that time, and $10. He gives it to the man, and he said, "Good man, have one on me." This is Fulton J. Sheen.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what, he knew what, and the wonderful man said, "Glory be to God, you are more intelligent than my Cardinal Archbishop." So one of these things, and then, I feel that he was down to earth, taking care of the needs of the people. I don't know whether you are familiar with this, but we went to visit leprosy colonies, many
And
times.
Molokai or
Yeah, and no, and also, but especially in Thailand, I'll never forget. This is a beautiful story that I have to tell you, if you don't mind. Uh, we are on the way back, so the bishop was really touched by the fact, and I'll never forget when he would put the rosary in the hands of the lepers. So most of the fingers, they were not there. You know,
Exactly.
there was. He said the first time, the first man that I gave, I felt like then I could see him that he actually would press his hands in the hands of the lepers. You know, but on the way back, we're on the plane, and this hostess, you know, the stewardess, you know, comes and saves us, and I see the bishop looking at this beautiful young lady, and he said, "Well, you know, I have to tell you that we're just back from a place where they would give anything to have 1 minute of your presence and your smile." The young lady, you know how young ladies are. Oh, you know, oh, thank you, sir. You know, thank you. We try our best, you know, but I'm not Catholic, you know. It's all right. That was it. So I figured that was it. A month passed. 109 is 38th Street. The bishop is not in. Frederick, our chef, because the three of us were living there, you know, and he was a Lutheran chef, Norwegian, who had left the service of Billy Rose, at that time famous, you know, to come and be with the bishop. So he had gone shopping. The bishop was not in. I go and open the door, and I see this beautiful young lady in front of me, and she says, you know, "Father, do you remember me?" And I was, as always, very honest. I said, "The young lady, I should know you, because, I mean, from your beauty," I said, "you know, but that I don't remember you. Please help me." He said, "Well, I was that young lady that when you were coming back from Thailand with Bishop Sheen. I'm here to take instructions in the faith."
Wow.
She was, for 6 months, taking instructions in the faith. She was baptized by the bishop, and the day after, she left for that colony, Thailand colony, where she is still at.
Monsignor, listen, this is not the end. He's here in the studio. We're going to do more programs. Stay with us. Thank you for being with us today, and may God bring you closer in your walk each and every day. God bless you. Hi, I'm Father Jeff Pai from Closer Walk Catholic Communications. Join us here on this station each week as we strive to bring you the gospel message with great clarity and great charity, and may God bless you in your walk each day.